Dear colleagues, I welcome the participants in the Moscow Conference on Non-Proliferation, organized by the Center for Security Energy. Your meeting is taking place under difficult conditions. The crisis in the arms control, disarmament, and nuclear non-proliferation regime reflects the unprecedented deterioration of international security. Today, with SHA and their NATO satellites still obsessed with the idea of strategic failure against Russia, they are ready to continue to contain our country until the last Ukrainian, as they say. At the same time, the Westerners are dangerously balancing on the verge of direct military conflict between nuclear powers, which is full of catastrophic consequences. Of particular concern is the fact that the three Western nuclear states are one of the main sponsors of the criminal regime in Kiev and the main initiators of various provocative steps. We believe that this poses a serious strategic risk, leading to an increase in nuclear danger. The collective West, led by the United States, cynically combines the purposeful dismantling of balanced and equal agreements that hinder Washington with the promotion of blatant cheating schemes to create benefits for the United States. The goal is obvious, and at the same time it can consolidate the overall superiority of the West in the field of non-nuclear capabilities by imposing new restrictions on the nuclear arsenals of opponents to achieve unilateral military superiority. In pursuit of decisive military superiority, Washington and its allies are expanding their alliance network against the three countries. They are actively implementing a number of extremely destabilizing military technology programs, including the establishment of a global missile defense system, the accumulation of high-precision weapons for the task of disarming and decapitating global strikers, and the advanced base of nuclear capabilities. In Europe, it is also destabilized. Development within the framework of NATO's joint nuclear mission and preparations for the deployment of space weapons and short and medium-range land-based missiles in various regions of the world. The formation of a bite-and-bite partnership between the United States, Britain, and Australia is deeply disturbing, and the two countries are increasingly taking on the characteristics of military blocs. In addition, NATO countries and US allies have increased military spending and plans to build Britain's nuclear capabilities in the face of an all-out hybrid war against us. There is no basis for dialogue with the United States on arms control and strategic stability. This topic cannot be artificially separated from the general international segment and considered separately from other aspects of interstate relations, as they are trying to present to Washington, and it will only be possible to talk about all these stories after the United States authorities abandon the openly hostile anti-Russian line. Any hypothetical effort to reduce the potential for conflict must be comprehensive and must be based on addressing the central issue of NATO's aggressive eastward expansion. For us, these principled approaches, without alternatively undermining the existing arms control and nuclear non-proliferation regime, have a negative impact on the sustainability of the NPT. The challenges to the implementation of the provisions of the NPT not only persist but also increase. The last two review cycles of the treaty ended with the blocking of the draft outcome document. In one case, the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom did it in two cases. We have witnessed a terrible spectacle when the collective Western countries, including those mentioned above, began to fill documents with language that was deliberately inadmissible and irrelevant to the NPT, which inevitably led to its obstruction. The main problem is that the treaty has long been used by Western countries to solve political problems unrelated to nuclear non-proliferation. In other words, to exert pressure or direct intervention on unpopular countries in order to increase the level of control over the nuclear programs of non-Western bloc countries. Such actions are a response to the high demands of non-nuclear weapon states for nuclear disarmament. In addition, some NATO member states have taken measures to strengthen the control of the nuclear arsenals of Russia and China under the banner of disarmament. Nor can the state of the nuclear disarmament track be viewed in isolation from current military, political, and strategic realities. Moreover, Article 6 and the preamble of the day clearly place the topic in the context of general and complete disarmament. These challenges should be addressed through the collective efforts of nuclear and non-nuclear states, without artificial isolation. He raised some elements of the corresponding obligations. I will focus on the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. As early as 1999, Congress rejected its ratification under far-fetched pretexts. Since then, Washington has not taken any practical action in this regard. They say the argument that ratification of the CTBT is unsuccessful. Рассуждение о том, что ратификацию нельзя, мол, не удается провести через Конгресс США. We see it as an empty excuse to pass through the United States Congress. Therefore, we conclude that the American political establishment is not interested in Russia's withdrawal of ratification of the treaty, which is a logical response to the above-mentioned destructive actions of the United States and other Western countries. At the same time, we remain a full member of the CTBT and have recently completed the establishment of part of the international monitoring system. Once the United States does so, it is ready to return to the issue of ratifying the treaty. The Westerners' attempt to reformat the organization for the prohibition of chemical weapons for their own self-interest is a matter of serious concern. This once highly authoritative and purely technical international structure has been turned by Western countries into a tool to realize their geopolitical interests in the Middle East and beyond. In other words, privatization. I can't find the secretariat of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. As a result of such destructive activities, the Z has split and lost its independent status and authority. How? A recognized platform of experts in the field of chemical disarmament and non-proliferation. The United States, with the support of its allies, continues to carry out propaganda campaigns to discredit Russia's space activities and our initiatives to prevent an arms race in outer space. The aim is to divert the attention of the international community from the real threats in space and to obtain more funds for the construction of their national military space capabilities. At the same time, the degree of absurdity. Anti-Russian stuffing from Washington. It's out of scale. It has reached the point of baseless accusations that some activities in space threaten international security, related, I quote, to the deployment of nuclear weapons there. Such fiction has nothing to do with the reality. Russia is firmly committed to its international legal obligations, including the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, and has always advocated that outer space should be maintained as a space for all countries to carry out peaceful activities on an equal basis. A priority for us. An international legally binding instrument establishing reliable safeguards against the placement of weapons in outer space and the use or threat of use of force against space objects remains to be developed. The basis is the draft treaty submitted by Russia and China to the Conference on Disarmament in view of the continued military biological activities of the United States around the world. В свете непрекращающейся военно-биологической активности США во всем мире, в нарушении Конвенции о запрете... In view of the violations of the Biological and Toxin Weapons Convention, it is essential that the international community strengthen the provisions of some of the conventions, in particular by drafting a legally binding protocol to the convention, which provides for an effective verification mechanism. Протокола, который предусматривал бы эффективный механизм проверки. Some Russian initiatives are also aimed at improving the convention regime. We look forward to concrete success in this regard, following the activities of the relevant working groups established by Decision 9 of the BTWO Review Conference. In view of the fact that NATO members and their satellites continue to supply large quantities of weapons and ammunition to the Kiev regime, in violation of previous international obligations to control the export of military technology and equipment, we attach great importance to the issue of controlling the transfer of conventional arms between countries. In this regard, states must strictly implement the United Nations Programme of Action to prevent, combat and eradicate the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons in all its aspects, as well as the United Nations Register of Conventional Arms. We are convinced that in order to prevent further deterioration of the world situation, we need to maintain long-term stability, formulate a realistic disarmament agenda, and work together to establish a new international security architecture. A framework based on multilateralism, equality and indivisibility. Only in this way can the level of interstate conflicts be reduced, and thus a real process of arms control be ensured. Thank you for your attention and wish you success. Благодарю за внимание и желаю вам успехов.